I think we should be able to start, yeah, because they can hear us.
Okay, let's go ahead and start and hope that we're being recorded. Everyone, welcome to our March TMAC meeting. We would like to start, let's go ahead and do introductions. Well, actually, no, let's start with Beth. Beth is our new member, and I had a chance to talk with her last week, and I am so glad that you'll be on TMAC. She's coming from District 4. She brings a lot of information about the west side, especially in specific streets, and awareness of the needs in that part of the city. So we are really happy that Beth is here. Would you like to just take a minute and introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Beth Alligood, for about 3 more months, and then I'm getting married. But I've lived in West Provo for 15 plus years. I've been involved in the city before. I've been on the neighborhood program. I've done the Provo Citizens Advisory Board for the police department. I really enjoy working with people in the city and working to create a better community. I think there's so many different ideas in Provo that are just wonderful, and I just love it when we can bring them all together and make something great for everybody.
Hey, thanks, Beth. So glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Look forward to your contributions. Beth has a previous appointment, so she'll be leaving early today, but we'll look forward to having her the whole time next month. Let's go ahead and go around to Beth's left, and we'll just finish introductions.
Hi, Sandy Bruscio, City Staff.
Bowden Golding Development Services. Joseph Gandy with Public Works.
Judy Johnson, Public Works Engineering.
Gordon Haight with Provo Engineering.
Lori McMurray, TMAC Chair.
Hey, Shore, Public Works.
Hannah Salvo, Development Services.
Kevin Weaver, Development Services.
Ford Lesko Development Services.
Richard Otto, TMAC.
Greg McFarland, TMAC.
Bruce Jensen, TMAC.
Jeff
There you go,
McLaughlin,
Beth.
TMAC online.
Yeah, Jeff, our TMAC Vice Chair, is online, and also,
Jim Hamula, TMAC member, online.
great, thank you, everyone. We didn't have down approving minutes, but we should probably do that, right, Judy? I move we approve the minutes from last month.
I'll second them, they were beautiful and edifying.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you. I want to be wherever Jim's at. That looks great.
We all do.
I know it is.
Not the fake one.
This is aspirational.
Okay. For us all, apparently. Okay, so let's go ahead and give Gordon a moment. Last month we talked about, we started talking about what are we going to do about the Provo Bike Master Plan that is quite old. And Gordon's going to talk about that briefly.
Yeah, I wanted to also do just a couple other.
Oh, yes, I
quick
apologize,
things.
yeah.
We did hire a new traffic manager who will be involved in this. His name is Vern Kessler. He worked for Provo a number of years ago. He's been working on the private sector, and he's been highly involved in all of our traffic plans and all the things that have been going on with the city. So it'll be great to have him in-house working on these things. And so he'll be a regular attender for this. And so that leads to the bike discussion. I talked to him about this, and I think it would be worthwhile to have him part of this discussion. And so my recommendation is that to join, we talked about this earlier, I think last week, is to continue this to another date so we could have him be a part of what we end up deciding, because he'll be the one kind of responsible for it. So that's that topic. And then I wanted to have one other topic. I think that's
Did he present a few months ago on, is that the same person?
Yes.
For the action plan? Yeah, okay. He was here to present.
Yeah.
It's the action plan. When they applied.
He did the safety action
Yeah.
plan. So their firm did the safety action plan. So as we do start prioritizing projects and things on that, I think he still will be a really great resource just because he's so intimately familiar with, he did our transportation master plan, he did all these things, so he'll be able to speak and represent it clearly and get us a good spot for that. Could you bring up the GIS?
Yes,
Could you hand me your mouse?
yes.
So I just want to alert you to this, and then I'm going to have to go do something about it. So right here, there's a potential rock fall. And so UDOT 2 days ago closed this ramp. And we weren't fully aware of it.
In context, where are we?
Is that
So,
the mouth of the canyon?
This is Mount Kona Purple Canyon. This is 8th North in
Okay,
Forum.
thank you, okay.
And this is University. Sorry about that. And so the people that want to go up the canyon, what they're doing now is because they get to this point and they're forced to come down University, and they come down to University and they go up this and they turn around and come back.
Yeah.
Now the problem with this is a blind curve, and they're coming down here at extreme speeds. Because of the volume of traffic, they're actually blocking this lane coming through here, and this is a very fast lane through here. So
There's a ramp closed like permanently?
for 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So anyway, when UDOT didn't do anything, we came out, we're putting panels up here, we're flying this with the drone to kind of see what the movements are. There really isn't a great way to deal with this because once you get on this road, you're, carrying 2 trailers, a big truck, to do a U-turn in this, and they are doing U-turns in this road. We got a video of that, and that was kind of exciting because it stopped all the traffic on both sides of the road.
You got bikers that all.
So anyway, they're having to come clear up, and so we're meeting with UDOT traffic control because we got to do something different than what we're
Why
doing.
don't they reroute them further west so that they know ahead of time instead of?
They have some signs saying you're going to be in trouble if you come this way trying to go up Provo Canyon, but
Nobody looks at
You
the
have to
traffic
come-
signs on the route.
you have to come all the way down, come University, and people think, I don't know.
They think they have a secret that will be more efficient.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is send some people up tonight to see if they can shove this rock off. Get this taken care of. But right now, we're really concerned about this traffic element. So I was just giving you a heads up of what we're doing and what we're trying to think of. It's really not out.
Could you temporarily close left turns off of southbound University?
Close.
Not allow people to turn left from southbound University onto Canyon Road?
Yeah, we could block this off, but we still have a fair amount of traffic coming here. So that's not ruled out right now. The problem is we're seeing people making U-turns all up and down this road. So if we block it off, then they just do U-turns because nobody knows how far the road they have to go down to turn around to come back up.
Is
And
there
so,
any way for them to? I don't know.
turn into here,
Yeah, and then.
they can, there's just no signal. So this is an awful road to come out of.
Well, can they?
Then they can just come around at 48.
Turn right, go around that building and then come, yeah.
That light timing there coming out of
Is that a light
Edgewood.
there?
Come over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so they could probably come up to here or come around here. That's what I'm gonna go meet with UDOT on. So this is a challenge of what we're trying to do. I'm just telling you, the public's gonna think we're stupid. All of a sudden we say, okay, this is how you go up Provo Canyon. Well, but we gotta do something. I'm not arguing with any of the agreements, but I'm just telling you, somebody's gonna put something
But
on
if
Facebook.
you said something like large vehicle turnaround detour or something, like at least the big ones wouldn't be making U-turns.
Yeah.
It's really hard for a vehicle to go that way.
So, yeah, so this is kind of the thing where we're just looking at all the options. I'm just telling you, it's not trivial, and we don't have a good safety situation right now.
Could we get UHP traffic control officers to like direct traffic?
We asked them to come out, and they felt like that wasn't something they would do, so we're gonna discuss it further.
Well, they'll clean up the crashes.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Either here one way or another.
Exactly.
You're gonna be there.
Hey, thanks, Gordon, good luck. Thanks for being here. Okay, so I think everyone sounds at peace with continuing our bike master plan sketch until next month. That seems like a good choice. Then I have asked, who's our presenter on item 5?
That's gonna be Hannah.
Okay, Hannah, you didn't decide on 6, okay, yay. Hannah has kindly agreed to come today and talk with us about the aspects of the new general plan that was just approved this year, right, a few months ago?
Yeah.
That are most important for TMAC to be aware of, because our biggest agenda item for today is to go over what we started last time, what's most important for us to discuss this year. And Bill Fillmore gave us his list. Jeff talked about the city council members he's spoken with, and I've since talked with George Hanley as well. What does the city council want TMAC to do with our time this year? What's the top of their agenda? And I'd like us to talk a little more about that and start prioritizing. Our time is so limited, just one meeting a month, and it goes so quickly, and discussions take so long. Let's be really strategic about what's most important. So in preparation for that conversation, Hannah's going to go over the new general plan with us.
The general plan that was just adopted a few months ago, we had the version that was done by our consultants, and you've seen that draft floating around. They are formatted very different. Hopefully that's a clear visual indicator, but we have a second version that was mostly done by staff. We liked the recommendations from our consultants, but we needed to make some tweaks, make it a little bit more aligned with Provost's vision. We also had a shift in the elected body. It was an old council that commissioned the old general plan. It didn't quite make decisions with the new council. So this version is the version to go with. If you've seen the old double spread one, don't worry about that. Focus on this. Table of contents, we have the transportation section. I'm going to jump right down to that. I highly encourage you to skim through the rest. We tried to make it accessible. There's good pictures, very open. I won't read the whole thing, but I just want to highlight the 6 sort of main points that the text addresses, and then I'll go through the goals, because that's really where the meat of this is. This plan backs up everything we've had in the old bike master plan. I'm sure we'll get the updates and see how that aligns with this vision as well. The old transportation master plan, safety action plan, capital improvement plan, all of those went into informing this document. Be familiar with the ideas in those. Nothing in this should surprise you. The biggest theme is a multimodal focus, as you all know, as we're expanding and experiencing huge increases in Provost's population. We can't rely on any one system. They're all going to be necessary. No one's saying you have to stop driving your car, but we can't rely just on a single occupancy vehicle system and expect that our infrastructure is going to keep up. So we're diversifying, we're spreading the load, we're trying to incentivize other ways of moving around our city. Part of that is going to be strategic land use, things like density around transit centers, encouraging neighborhood commercial to reduce the need for people to drive as far, things like that. All things you're familiar with. There is a little bit about personal vehicles going down, and the big focus with personal vehicles is commuting. People using them for errands, things like that is fine, but commuting makes up about 30% on average across the U.S. of time spent in vehicles. Vehicle miles traveled, about 30% is. So if we can drop those commuting numbers, reduce congestion at peak times, or shift people to other modes of transit, that would be fantastic. And there is a note in here as well with the economy, where we encourage business owners to consider their impacts on traffic. I don't think it's something that we've encouraged in the city before, but think about how your employees are getting to work, where they're parking, what their impact on our larger systems might be. If you can do a hybrid work from home on peak days, great. If you want to incentivize multimodal or active transportation options for your employees, also great. But it's going to be a community-wide lift to make sure that we're not overburdening these systems. The second half gets into connectivity. This is a fun table I'll come back to. Don't worry about that. Connectivity, as we all know, is one of the banes of Provost geography, just with how we're building on old infrastructure and our native terrain. But of course, if we can get better connectivity, we'll reduce the time cars are running, reduce the number of accidents, reduce air pollution and emissions, improve air quality, reduce costs for drivers, improve the appeal of multimodal and active transportation networks by connecting biking network as well. We're looking at multimodal connectivity not just cars, not just east-west, not just railroad and highway, the classics. We're trying to really expand to a citywide view of a multimodal connected network. Oh. This is meant to be a high-level view. Again, I strongly encourage you to read it. The transportation section is only about 8 or 10 pages. We, of course, encourage the expansion of the airport. The airport master plan has everything we would need to say about that. But we're glad to see it already expanding internationally with flights to Cabo soon. The very last one is, of course, seems like a loaded word in most rooms, but parking. Just assessing where we're using it, where it's underutilized, where it could be redeveloped. Do we need as much in certain areas? And this plan is not making direct recommendations. It's kind of giving a philosophy, setting some goals, and then allowing staff to come back with specific right way to do things. I do want to go back to this table for a second before. This is from the Y2 survey that we did that was citywide, more than double the threshold for statistical validity as far as the population responding. We've broken it into students and non-students, but we asked, ideally, how far would you like to travel to access each of the following amenities, businesses, and services in your area? It's broken down by shorter or longer walks, and then shorter and longer drives. And it is very interesting to see most people are very willing, 60% of people are very willing to walk up to 5 minutes. 24%, more than I would have thought, are willing to walk 15 minutes for it. However, almost no one is willing to drive 20 minutes or more. They're willing to walk it, but not drive it to get to public transportation or active transportation. I won't go through all of these. It's very interesting to see where the trends fall. Strongly encourage that you all look at this and maybe it can help inform some of your targeted decisions a little bit more.
I want to understand this.
Yeah.
This is, how would you most prefer to get to this place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, ideally, how far would you like to travel?
But this is asking about distance and mode.
You can go to
It is.
Rock, and it's going to this place or not.
Yeah,
But-
if you were going out for
this is
food, you
exactly my
could
question. Can somebody say, I would like to walk 5 minutes for food or drink, and drive 5 to 9 minutes?
They could only pick one.
They could only pick one.
So food and drink, most people would say, I would prefer that that was within a 5-minute walk of me. Or most people, about half said, I would prefer a short drive to get food. But again, this is looking at the students, it's a little bit different.
They have to pick a mode and a distance.
That is just how it was structured. More of this information is available in Appendix A to the general plan, public engagement summary. See all of these questions broken out. I would recommend just doing a Control F search and putting in something like transportation and seeing what comes up. Kind of go through by topic. There's one I wanted to point out. In this, when it comes to transportation, what would you think is most important for the city to address? The majority said reducing traffic congestion. That's part of what informs this multimodal focus, right? Is we're showing already that some of our systems are a little bit overburdened, in people's opinion. Second was improving air quality. Again, on a multimodal focus. So these, again, just student, non-student breakdown, same as the other one. I encourage you to take a look through the summary and, again, maybe use some of the data we got from that survey for yourself. I'll go to the goals now. Oh, are there any other questions?
Do you guys have comments on that? Feel free to,
I just,
please bring out anything.
the parking question was interesting. Students, 60% of students felt like parking was improper. Not a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's
Nice when
another.
the numbers back up what we.
I
Right.
also wonder how many people in Provo have, right?
Literally every person I've shown these results to has said that, where they're like, congestion's the biggest problem, really? But
I wonder.
And maybe it's just the people that I hang out with, but like Provo does not have congested traffic. It's like 15 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon of, I can't drive everywhere I want to go at the speed I want to drive. But
apart from the 7, 8 events that we have, the BYU games, Stadium of Fire.
Yeah, those special events, like, you can't, like, build an infrastructure system around
And you
special
can't,
events.
you're right, you can't do much about it.
But there's also always a way around them if you go far enough to the west.
Or, yeah. Yep.
Okay, there's a game tonight, don't leave the house.
Yes, literally everyone says that. But it's a matter of perception. In the transportation section, I'm just going to move this a little bit. We do have the goals here at the end. Again, restating our commitment, the general theme, we promote a connected network of streets, lanes, trails, routes, and tracks. Efficiently move people, goods, and services throughout the city by a variety of means. That is kind of the banner statement for transportation. Relevant plans, we will update these as we get more like the bike plan. These are the goals in short form, but I'm not going to spend time on this or zoom in because they are in an expanded matrix farther down. The last chapter is just implementation matrix. Goes by chapter. Might be worth noting as far as timing, short, we're kind of thinking 1 to 3-ish years, mid about 3 to 10, long about 10 to 20. But those are very blurred. We'll need to reassess those as time goes. And this is where I wanted to spend most of the time. As far as like themes and ideologies, just I trust you to read through on your own. Those are the 6 things I highlighted earlier, where we really want to get into it. There are 4 main goals and a bunch of sub-goals. This section has the most sub-goals of any other section. There are 20 of them. I am very sorry. That is just how it happens. Prioritize street corridors that are safe and have adequate capacity for all modes of transportation as appropriate. Overarching goal. We'll do that by encouraging east-west connectivity, planning residential and collector roadways to collect traffic or to control traffic speeds using complete street standards, and future transportation networks to accommodate future growth and avoid congestion, and prioritize the safety action plan. It's really critical to get more people on our roads, especially in multimodal ways.
I want to get more detail on this east-west and what the council thinks about it. Mm-hmm. So do they consider east-west just, like you mentioned the rail and I-15 being the divide?
That's going to be the biggest bottleneck, yeah.
But I also hear a lot of people talking about like just getting from like the Timpanogos neighborhood to the Wasatch neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Like
from 90th to 5th
yeah, 90th to 5th West, like that's, and it seems like those are 2 very different questions. So if you ask people, do you want to improve east-west mobility, they may have very different ideas in mind about what that means.
That is exactly why the first task for this, the launch, is to complete a plan and identify priorities. They are going to be very different in a built-out, narrower environment like that versus something, a major infrastructure project like a freeway. Totally different needs, totally different context. We trust engineering staff.
But also you have blocks like the Reg Center block, like the Provo Power block and the Provo Peaks block, and like there are a lot of these double blocks that mean that there are no roads that go all the way across town.
North ends at 17.
Right, and 8th North ends at 17.
The plan shows that connecting over the north and east, but that's just.
Yeah, and then you gotta move and build those 20 houses, right?
This is where we trust public works, and this is one of those mid, where we're not going to solve this in the next couple of years. We're going to need some time to think about it strategically.
That's something we could look at, right? That's on our list. That was one of the things on Bill's list was east-west mobility. And well, is it the central or is it the city? Just side to side. I'd say both are concerns, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's something that TMAC could potentially do a deeper dive into. See what are our options? What could we do? That's something we could talk about.
You guys could. We should have. TMAC is on here, by the way. It's no.
Yeah.
And I would like to point out when the Global Parkway Trail was closed, the only way to go from east to west, if you live on the west side of Global in that area, is to take 8th North to Center Street. And how vital the Parkway Trail really is for other modes of transportation.
Right.
Because it bypasses all those obstacles.
And
It
Center
makes it
Street,
safe.
Center Street is a death trap for not.
Yeah, you don't.
Merge with the freeway traffic.
Good to know. Our name is already on some of these projects. Thanks for pointing that out, Hannah. Good to know. We're already responsible for things. Excellent. Okay.
In some of these where the next step is to identify priorities or create a strategy,
Yes.
TMAC is on it.
We're on
You guys are going to be a driving engine behind the recommendations. Any questions on this first set before I go to the second set? Second goal, category, strive to create a robust system of local and regional transportation alternatives, including rail, bus, biking, and walking options. And this is the section that has the most goals. Consider increasing the operations access and number of stops for public transit. Of course, that's going to be in coordination with UTA. We don't control that, but it's something that we can have a conversation about. Consider developing programs to encourage biking and transit use. Support efforts to expand bus rapid transit routes to key destinations. This is something we've really been trying to work with UTA about. Continue to utilize innovative approaches to alternative transportation methods as technology advances. Keeping your eyes open. You guys are probably going to be the first to hear about some of those. Please let us know. And continue to evaluate future roadway capacity improvements to reduce congestion and growth-related transportation.
Hard thing for me because simultaneously planning for our roads to be more efficient and planning for our alternative transportation. I know that both of them are important, but it almost seems like if you focus more on one than the other, then by default, it will encourage, if you have a super great walking and biking network, then by default, people will choose that because the roads can't hold them. But once you make the roads high capacity, it's faster and easier for them. And so I feel like there's got to be like a balance in the middle that would make somebody want to choose it. Like, I'm not saying don't improve your roads, but don't improve the east-west corridors, but don't do such a good job at it that we just have more drivers and more congestion in the long run.
Yeah, high-speed, high-capacity roads are counterproductive to cycling and walking.
And they do fill up. There is that, if you build it, they will come. It
Yeah.
absolutely happens. We've seen it time and time again. But also, we get a lot of traffic just coming through Provo. We need to make sure that that's moving to good space. Like you said, there's a balance.
I think it's a hard balance between regional traffic and local city traffic as well. Balance for that. It's hard.
But I'm looking at 2C, the Riverwoods Business Park. There's 4 miles of nothing between destination and Riverwoods. So you could have high quality bus transit that goes out to the Riverwoods and connects University Avenue with the Riverwoods, but only no transit agency is going to operate it unless you also have high density trip attractions in the middle of that.
Isn't there one bus that goes there?
Yeah, and it doesn't have the highest ridership.
Yeah, I'm sure it does because
Because
it's disconnected and the clientele is such that there's just a high volume of them.
Right, and I mean, you could invest in a bus rapid transit with solid stations and high frequencies, and it would have more riders, but is the land use plan that's also part of this general plan understanding of that? You can't just say, I want bus rapid transit out to Riverwood without redeveloping everything along University to be more supportive of that.
Agreed. This is a 15 to 20-year plan. It also is a plan that drives death by committee 8 different. There's a lot in here that might not always be compatible, but it's what was adopted.
To address specifically the Riverwoods, there's a giant project that's section of the river. And
204 units.
and technology campus, kind of like a Microsoft or an Apple sort of.
Yeah.
What's the project that was?
I think so.
You said
Right,
that the
right.
Volkswagen was not the script of this project.
Yeah, and so maybe that's where that would actually be realistic because you have a demographic that would use it, but it still does, I appreciate that you're pointing out that it's better to focus on the cluster uses before you start focusing on the ones that are way out there.
Good word, someone.
it keeps going, I just didn't want to go past the page. Explore the feasibility of an active transportation facility from east to west across I-15. That's been in discussion for a long time. Various opportunities, including considering facility and parking. Bike programs, scooters, help the person life. Something that we've already been launching into with scooters and e-bikes. They've seen some really good success. So coordinating with that, keep moving it forward, but so far the soft launch has been really good. Third,
You know the rates that they're having, ownership, electric.
know that. Do you know the comparison of ridership rates between the scooters and the bikes?
Scooters are ridden a lot more than the bikes at this point. Remember, they came in and all of them had a real winner. So the numbers really aren't.
I do
real telling right now. Ask me probably in April and May. But again, right now it is showing that they're outrageous. Lots more than mine.
I was curious, it's been my observation, but
I think overall, there's been more ridership post-COVID than during.
We recently did another one of these Y2 surveys for the river and lakeshore plan. And one of the survey questions was, how do you use the Parkway River Trail? Like, what do you do to recreate at the river? And one of the more common answers was riding scooters, which is kind of surprising, but we even did that as a staff activity. It's so fun. So people are using them not just to get around, but also for fun.
I'm calling up just a little bit, Hannah.
Find the right balance of parking, and I know this is the work of a lifetime, but find the right balance of parking to promote the local economy and encourage active transportation, kind of getting to what you were saying, where we need to maybe make one option slightly less appealing to make the other look more enticing to people. We need to explore a strategy or program to address parking in university neighborhoods through signage and or permitting. Consider implementing strategic parking plan recommendations to manage parking citywide. Encourage walkability in downtown mixed-use centers and at transit locations to reduce vehicular trips. Reduce parking requirements as appropriate to encourage residential development in key areas. For sufficient parking for uses that may have impact. This is that balance. Ensure sufficient parking, but maybe in other places we scale down the parking. We're working on finding that balance.
I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is in your department, maybe it's you, Devin, but it seems TMAC or Planning Commission where we were told about a permit program that they were going to do parking meter programs off of campus.
We explored that option.
And it sounded like it was going to happen, but I don't think
that's what we're discussing council, but no actual application has been made. That was just what went to the, at the time, counter parking committee. But nothing has happened with that since then.
I was curious to see how it went. Having to be developed.
We have that developed, it's all ready to go, but I have to see. We are.
So it really is still on the table.
It is still on the table.
Okay.
We are very, very close to implementing it, and then we will have where we want to test it, what makes sense.
Like, I heard it in the Milwaukee neighborhood. Is that the first place that you started?
Implementing, you mean implementing the app?
Implementing paid on street parking.
Paid on street parking.
You know, we are looking on that's council hasn't. That's what we're going to recommend.
That's what we recommended the entire time in that area.
Right, that's what I thought. And so that's why, as we talk about these goals and strategies and ideas, this to me would be the best feedback to get to see how the public responds to this sort of inconvenient regulation in their lives.
Can I ask, maybe I misunderstood something. Why are we not using like a turnkey existing app system that hundreds of other cities have been using? Like, is Provo developing its own app?
Sorry, what?
Is Provo developing its own parking app?
No.
Okay.
Right now we use Paylog software. And
Okay.
so the ads will come through Paylocity software, so our existing residential permits, paid on street parking, all of that will be done with the app. It's all one.
Here, that's in other cities as well. so.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood something you said. I thought you were saying that Provo was developing an app. Which,
No, I
which
think
I would have suggested no.
I put that word in there.
Okay, all right.
And again, the app has been developed, it's there, it's in beta testing, but we are on our own servers, so we need to migrate to the cloud so we can have real time through Paylocity. And we're just waiting for our IS department and to be on that priority list for them to.
Okay, I can understand.
It would be awesome to correspond the launch, like either the summer when it's easier to manage or when school starts in the fall so that everybody starts fresh with the new.
I was hoping April or May, kind of as the students stuff, that they would be aware that it wouldn't be here next year. So when they're setting their contracts and doing all of that, they would be aware that this is happening. I just don't think that's what I thought. Well, I mean.
That's been the vision since we were talking about it years ago.
That was their vision, and.
That's how Jeff and I became friends with walking.
Yeah.
Bonded for life.
Sorry.
Good to know there's positives that have come out of that. Adventure.
I have a question about what the council wants with 3E. Is the goal to not have on street, or is like what is how do they define sufficient parking?
Sufficient off-street parking specifically. There have been concerns from neighborhoods that increasing density will, of course, increase use of roads, parked on the road in front of their house. They want to make sure that, or those residents would like the council to make sure that if there are ADUs in the neighborhood, that the additional cars from those occupants are not clogging up their roads.
Which is an interesting thing because technically, every resident has to provide enough off-street parking spaces for the number of vehicles that they own.
Right.
So whether you have an ADU or not, if you have 7 cars, you need to have 7 off-street parking spaces.
Yep.
Yet there's nothing that prohibits you from parking said vehicles that you have off-street parking spaces for on the road.
Yeah, my sense is that residents hate other people parking in front of their house.
Yes.
But they park
They're
their own cars in
fine.
front of
They're
their
fine
house all the
parking.
time.
Parking
And the street is public space, but.
Yeah.
you know,
It's
I
a
just
great
wanted to understand the goal.
Politically speaking.
It's a great frustration in the Development Services Department, like with the Planning Commission, because we have these projects come to us, or there'll be ADU requests that will come, and they can say, yeah, I got this one, and then this one, but nobody's going to use them because nobody wants to be the second car in the driveway, and so they don't actually have them.
Right.
So it's one of those things that you can prepare for and plan for and do the math for, but
I just wanted to understand what the goal was.
Yeah.
And the goal is to eliminate on-street parking,
I think so.
which
Well, I attended
Necessary
the
on-street parking anyway.
seems
Forced on-street parking.
District 2 neighborhood meeting last week, and the mayor was there and all of her advisors, and the residents in South Provo felt really strongly their frustrations about high-density housing going in, but then there's not enough parking, so they all just cross the road into the single-family home neighborhood and park there all the time, and the residents really didn't like that. Whether it's technically legal or not, it is not a popular issue, and the mayor is very aware of that.
Yep.
That's my neighborhood.
Yeah, well, then you probably know.
I know all about.
You know all about those things.
my neighbor.
Okay.
South Provo?
Yeah.
Lake Canyon?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks. All right, number 4.
This is the last section. Coordinate with the Conservation Resiliency Plan, which is being drafted, and you'll have the opportunity to weigh in on the mobility section on that in a moment. Coordinate with the Conservation Resiliency Plan to reduce environmental impacts of single occupancy vehicle trips. Consider increasing the total number of public charging stations for electric vehicles. So that's one of those, like, if you're going to drive, do it right. Relieve automobile congestion, reduce stress on roadways by promoting multimodal choices, kind of echoing one above. Increase the urban tree canopy and consider looking at the size of park strips to accommodate larger trees, just offsetting some of the negative impacts. Yeah. We're working on expanding that. And last, identify locations and projects to improve stormwater management using green infrastructure. It's a very hodgepodge collection under this goal 4. I get that. But this was just sort of setting up some points that the council wanted the Conservation Resiliency Plan to explore a little more in depth.
Would you mind scrolling scrolling up again, I'm trying to look for the ones that already had TMAC listed, although I think certainly we could,
TMAC should maybe be on more of these.
on more of them, I think we would have something to say about more of them,
Downtown
but.
walkability to see that.
Downtown walkability.
John, was this general plan
Yes,
sent out with the agenda?
I believe I did send it with the agenda.
Yeah, it's
But-
also available in a few places online.
Yeah. And I can resend it.
1A, 1B. 3C. Those are all the ones that specifically.
At least those three, but.
Yeah. More. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't.
Hannah, thank you so much. Anyone else want to add observations from the general plan that you've seen that are relevant to TMAC? Thank you, really thorough.
I have something, Joy.
Okay.
One of the things that's interested me looking through the general plan, not just in the transportation section, but in the how do you want to see development move forward? As we know that land use planning is highly tightly connected to transportation planning. It seems like most of the respondents, although they want to reduce congestion and want to have other options, also want to have a single family detached house with a big yard. So we might have to reconcile those 2 points of view as we plan for how we're going to try to help people get what they want in Provo.
It's exactly like with the parking situation where people want this single family house with a large yard and they want to drive their car and be the only occupant in it, but they don't want the congestion, they don't want the sprawl. It's tough to reconcile.
Yeah, at what level does the TMAC take on like an educational or sort of messaging goal or encourage the city to message, hey, when you leave your car at home, it means, or when you don't buy that extra car, it means that you don't have a car parked in front of your street, in front of your house on the street, or hey, by building this bike lane, we'll keep students from parking in your neighborhood, or by not widening 900 East, we'll keep students from parking. Like,
That's up for discussion.
Do you mind showing the link, how they can find it?
Yeah.
That would be
There's one thing I want to show first, and then I'll show you where you can find it online. Appendix B, the state required cities to adopt moderate income housing supply strategies. This is very long. Most of it is about moderate income housing, but at the end there are some goals. And states were in code given a list of goals that they could choose from. We had to adopt a certain number. These are the ones that Provo chose to adopt, and there are a few that deal with transit. Most, again, are pretty housing specific, but B, F. Zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income residential development in commercial or mixed use zones near major transit investment corridors, commercial centers, or employment. Nothing new to you guys, but kind of bringing in that land use. Let's try to get more people around transit we already have.
And these are the ones recommended or that Provo chose to adopt?
These are the ones that Provo chose to adopt. Okay. And then we'll have to resubmit regular annual reports on the state monitored. And there are two more, G and H, that are pretty similar. Amend land use regulations to allow for higher density or newer moderate income residential development in commercial and mixed-use zones corridors, almost the same as the last one. Amend land use regulations or eliminate or reduce parking requirements for residential developments where a resident is less likely to rely on the resident's own vehicle, such as residential development near major transit corridors or senior living facilities. And this is verbatim from the code. We couldn't change the wording when we adopted them. This is what the state wants to see cities doing. One of the things they'd like to see. We will get more recommendations on this from the station area plan, but just putting it on your radar, it's something that is actively being pursued.
I can think of at least 2 or 3 that we tackle. Wells Fargo, is that
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo? Or 800 dollars. So 100 bucks? All right.
That's a residential development.
I'm just going to show you how to find the general plan on your own. It's sent out with the documents for this meeting. You can Google Provo general plan. It will pop up. You can find this on our codes website as well, but it kind of changed the layout when they ported it over, lost some of the graphics and some of the text, crucially. So we're working on fixing that. You can also go here to the provo.org. Yeah,
Selected.
right. Provo.org, put general plan in the search bar. It will also come up. All of our plans are in departments, development services, planning, neighborhood plans. And then this one has the general plan in. So in separate tabs from the other neighborhood plans, but same broad umbrella of features. And they are linked down here. A, again, is that public engagement summary. B is the moderate income housing element that we just looked at. C is our annexation policies. D is our land use map. And then all of the other appendices like master plan, stormwater master plan, all that are in the full list of appendices on our codes website. We didn't put them all here. It was just a little overwhelming. And a lot to maintain both. But this is just the new document. Any questions about that before I move on to the conservation resiliency plan?
You want Hannah to go over that, or should we do the review?
How about if we give you a brief break? Is that okay? And then come, or do you need
love
to?
that.
Okay, and then come back to you in just a minute.
Love it.
We'll do.
Yeah.
I'm reserving, is the last 15 minutes good for you?
Yeah, and I'm happy to just introduce it and give you a couple days to send me feedback.
Okay. I want to make sure we get a little bit of time for planning for the year, for our agendas. So, hey, thank you, Hannah. That was really helpful for me, presumably others as well. So, Jehan has kindly put together a list of everything that we've talked about. Could you zoom in just a little bit more? In our last few meetings. So I will just, I'd like to read, to review. So here's what I'd like to, so there's two questions really. The first question is, which of these things, given your understanding of transportation in Provo and your best understanding of City Council from the conversations we've had and our recent meetings, maybe start thinking, what are your top 3 to 5 of these that you'd like to see TMAC tackle this year? This is not a formal vote. I'm just gathering input so that as Gordon and Kehan and I work and Jeff to put together agendas, we have input from you on the direction that we think we should go. So I'll review so be thinking what is most important to you. And then once we know those, we could then go a little deeper and say, what specifically could TMAC do to help with those items? Lisa and then Greg.
You said you talked to Councilman Hanley. Is things on here as well?
His were largely echoing what had been already said.
I was curious to see if the other council members actually share the same
views as Bill
did.
And who Jeff has talked to. I did not talk to every single council member because it was suggested that I work through Bill as our official liaison to the council.
Right.
But Jeff had already had some conversations, and then George Hanley is my personal representative for where I live, so we were talking about some other things, and I asked him as well. But it wasn't anything different than what we had already talked about.
I just was hoping to find out if they overlapped.
So I wonder if these also correlate somewhat with what you said last year, going through that whole list. Maybe here before with Robert on prioritizing all of those things within downtown. Some of these kind of
Center Street.
Yeah.
Some of them definitely.
Some of these kind of mirror that.
Yeah, and Clancy will remember that.
Yeah.
Long valiant process.
I don't want your efforts to go away from all that work you just did.
No, thank you.
My request is very quick. Can we just change these to be numbered bullets so that we can refer?
I didn't want it to be numbered because I want TMAC to kind of number it, prioritize it, and then
Right, but what I'm saying is right here in this discussion, it'd be a lot easier to talk about.
Well, you could give them
item
letters.
6.
And
Yeah, give them letters.
yep, yeah, and that's what we're gonna do. Yes,
Okay.
you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you give them letters, then we can say.
Right now.
As we have this
Say,
discussion,
I like
have them
item
be
5.
numbered.
I can take them back after.
Yeah,
So I can
We
give
will try to
you,
ignore the numbers.
I don't think that it's priority order, but
And Joseph, if you want, we can write it down as well on the, so we had Joseph be in charge of that. He's gonna make it official. He's
Let me
gonna use the whiteboard, so.
and I found my notes from speaking with George, let me share those. He said, work with the general plan, which is what we started doing today. Develop our traffic system holistically. He's concerned with active and public transportation mobility, last mile problem support. These are all things that we've heard. Build higher density near public transportation, commercial centers, complete streets, building around and for mass transit, east-west transportation and mobility. So every single one of those points has been addressed today in the general plan for other
And
aspects.
that was
George Hanley.
because complete streets isn't on here.
So we could add that.
It's something we've talked about and it's in the transportation plan, but it's not.
On our
it's
list.
mentioned in the general plan as well.
Fourth bullet is alluding to it in a way, but yeah, the phrase
Okay.
is not on there.
So let's review then.
For the first and second item, can we change it to 200 East to 5th West?
Yes.
All of our downtown Center Street conversations have been 2nd East to 5th West, not West Center Street alone, but
That's
through
right.
lots as well.
Everywhere that has the.
Oh, it's that one.
Any solution really encompasses that, right?
And along the same lines,
And get rid of the west.
Not, so on West Center
First
Street.
west.
Right, this mouse is. Oh, west. Yep, there we go.
So let's,
Keep Center Street in the
This thing is not doing what I want it to do.
Sorry.
sorry.
You're fine.
It will not be a reflection on you.
No, we did plan on changing this, but we just keep forgetting.
No, Joseph, just draw a line through it. No. Do you want to add like A, B, C, D going down?
Sure.
Or can you do that, or should Joseph do that?
So Joseph can do that, and then I'll keep tracking.
Okay,
I'll keep
okay.
tracking here as well.
So let's just review what we've already got, and then see if there's anything you want to add. So I'm going to say item A, how to calm traffic on Center Street between 200 East and 500 West, which goes directly into pedestrian safety, given that it's a designated pedestrian mall. B, anything that is done on Center Street in downtown needs to be coordinated with an enhancement of 100 North in order to facilitate traffic flow to the freeway. We've talked about that in TMAC for several years.
Joseph, I'm just gonna point out, there are like a dozen of these.
Right, smaller.
Can you highlight the whole list?
And just switch it from bullets to, thank you.
Oh, no, all good. I did this from council years.
Great. I'm gonna keep going while you format for us. No, I'm just kidding, I'm not. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, no, don't keep those.
Ah.
You keep going.
All right,
We survived.
It's the letter, there you go. Okay, C, the generally acknowledged need for an expanded east-west corridor, or I would even say east-west mobility. Go ahead, back to B.
Well, I think you and I are saying the same thing. C, instead of expanded, I would prefer improved or something like that.
Yeah,
Improved.
let's say improved, and I wouldn't just say corridor, I would
We don't
say,
want to pre-decide that it's wide, it's some improvement, but.
and I would also not just say
I would
one
say
corridor.
improved east-west corridor.
Corridors or mobility, because we just talked about how we also need east-west mobility for other modes as well.
Connectivity?
Improved east-west connectivity, yeah, that would be fine.
Connectivity, sure, Jeff, yeah.
I'm trying,
It's not working.
I'm trying. This thing is not doing what I want it to do, so.
You can take Anna now.
So, sorry, skipping down to the bottom of this, I think.
Okay.
We're so fast.
No, I think item H and item J are the same item.
I don't even see item J yet.
J,
Okay, there you
oh.
go. Way ahead of me.
Nope.
H. So I think as we work on the program like master plan.
Yeah, that kind of goes.
Oh, wait,
Jeff, how do you feel about that? Because that was your mandate on 8.
I'm all right combining Provo, anything about biking.
Okay.
Are we considering the bike master plan the active transportation plan, or is it?
We haven't talked about that yet.
It's gonna be an item
Okay,
for
so
next.
give me, can I go in,
Okay,
for my
sorry,
sake,
so
can I go in order, for my brain? I'm so,
So right now, we're not trying to prioritize,
we're just reviewing what's on the list, because it's been a month. So for my sake, everyone, let's put it that way. Let me remember.
these are objectives.
I'm sorry for not making that clear. It's a big thing, and I don't recall us doing this before, so thanks for your patience. D, the continuing quest to find the right balance between the needs of vehicular traffic on one hand and pedestrian bicycles on the other hand.
I think that's I will run,
Okay.
but that's probably not something we put on an agenda and address it. I think
In mind, always.
every time we address something.
The prioritizing projects for the safety action plan. Do we have a deadline on that?
I think Gordon mentioned that was May, so.
That should probably be.
So that would
when
be
we talk about
So
next
that should
month.
be our priority.
So,
And that's an annual thing too, right? So every year we have
Every
something
year
that
could
we-
you
That's right.
attempt to type in the ones where there is an actual deadline, add, so on E, like dash May or something like that, so we're aware.
Highlighted in the red.
Or highlight.
I want to after.
You pick. No, don't pick.
We should have to do a dash for May.
I know, or however. May, okay. How to enhance and improve the gateways into the city. And this is something, again, at the strategic meeting was addressed. Again, this is very important to the city council and the mayor right now, are our gateways to the city. And we've had a students group present to us maybe a year ago about gateways as well. Their ideas, Jamin's class.
And I think I would love to talk about that maybe in 2 months from now.
Okay.
Just throwing it out there because we're starting to ramp up our work on that project.
Okay,
on that
so
map.
maybe, again, add in
I'm just throwing it out there.
Javin. April, May, that would also be in May. Excellent. These are the things we need to know. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. May or June. Okay, now we're on. Go ahead.
For F in the parentheses, could we add University Parkway to that?
They are specifically on the general plan where these gateways are.
It doesn't include Parkway.
There is. It's just South University Avenue.
But I can, we'll make sure to have all of them.
That one's important.
Yeah.
I think it's in the land use chapter.
CG, Slate Canyon, high-speed thoroughfare. We need to find a way to make travel safer on Slate Canyon.
I would propose, I would love to see this data.
And I know Slate Canyon is really important to the people in that neighborhood, but is it a city issue that the whole
TMAC
committee
should
needs
address?
to discuss?
So I have
Or is it a
been,
neighborhood issue?
I've been approached by the neighborhood, and I had a meeting with 5 of the neighborhood members. And their main concern is all those ADUs along Slate Canyon having the same kind of problem that we discussed about like not too long ago. Each one having 5 or 4 cars, and they park along Slate Canyon that was not meant to be for ADUs along a
It's
curve.
actually illegal for all of those houses on Slate Canyon to rent. More than the 3 unrelated people. Yeah, they all have secondary basement.
Through the zoning enforcement.
We're getting at as well.
It's
Sometimes
around on
when,
your neighbors until you get tired of routing it.
That's where all my neighborhoods
request for us, if we have asked in council meetings, if they want to make a motion to have two of them vote on that. So then we move forward on it, rather than it maybe coming from lunch. That might be something worth asking.
Yep, no, I agree with you.
Jeff, was the Slate Canyon one of the ones that you added to the list from your
No, that
conversation?
was
Was that Bill?
Fillmore,
Okay.
Bill Fillmore.
Well, he was his that he added last time. Okay.
I would
Right,
say
so that was more work on you unless just directed from the council.
I think my only comment, Joy, is that I think for our committee, it's a lower priority, even though I know for that neighborhood, it's a huge deal. It's not a through traffic.
I would say this, because we've talked about Timpview Drive before, what if we just leave that on there, but take the specificity up and say, high-speed thoroughfares like Timpview Drive and Slate Canyon and,
this was
anything
one of
else?
the goals in the general plan.
Right, to make these ones safer and also like both of those roads, because of their high-speed nature and them being major connectors in their areas, the bike traffic and pedestrian traffic is also an issue. And both of them have tried things and both of them have failed. So I would say there are projects throughout the city that we as a committee can address, and maybe it's just finding solutions that aren't site specific, but that can be applied.
I will say that on-street parking is traffic calming. So if you remove the on-street parking, that's what the neighborhoods are worried about, you will have faster traffic.
Only issue
And
with
that's
that.
the other issue the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and then the other issue with that is they park on people's driveways.
Sure.
They park on basically grasses, lawns, and even right at the intersection. So now we're running into side distance issue.
Yeah, but Provo has developed a high-density neighborhood with zero
Yeah.
transportation alternatives.
Yeah.
And that was going to happen no matter what.
Oh, well, except for the over-occupancy problem.
So I would suggest that item G is related to B and H, which are all talking about safety for pedestrians and bikers and that conflict, right, with cars. So would we want to include that with,
I think we could say,
or let it be on its own?
explore creative solutions for high-speed thoroughfares for neighborhood
Okay.
streets.
Well, I think, oh, go ahead.
Are we calling them high-speed thoroughfares, or are we complaining that the language needs?
You don't want to say that we
The problem is streets that are
Not high-speed
confused.
thoroughfares.
That's right.
Confused.
So,
It's a residential street that's also a throughway, and so it's confused. It doesn't know what it is, so everyone's mad.
so there's a specific goal in the general plan. What was the language there on that goal? It was like one or something. It was like address traffic calming in residential connectors or something like that.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah,
Like that.
that's what it
That's
should
what
be.
needs to be.
Yeah.
So just use that goal and
Maybe change Slate Canyon to be, how did you just say it?
Goal.
Residential throughways?
residential connectors. I
Traffic
think.
calming measures?
Traffic calming measures on residential connectors.
Residential
Yeah.
connectors, traffic calming measures. Okay.
Most of those connectors are, most of them are.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Slate Canyon Drive, Timpview Drive,
Yeah.
1730 North, these are all connector
Connectors
roads.
and collectors.
And they're all the ones that we've talked about before that have problems with on-street parking and people going too fast, and how do we get bikes up and down the roads, whatever.
About that.
And I would say Geneva Road might even be considered one, because it has no pedestrian or bike amenities for most of its length in Provo. And it would, it is for,
In the state.
I
Not
agree.
second, but it's just gonna be.
anyway, I just want to point out that just because the language says Slate Canyon doesn't mean it's a problem, so let's just change the wording
Yeah.
to keep it in our minds that this happens when we have it like that.
H, making Provo safer for women and children to travel as bikers and pedestrians.
Why don't you just change the language in G to say make travel safer for everyone? Take off on Slate Canyon. For all passengers, all.
Well, I want to make sure we don't lose the power
All
of
demographics?
H standing by itself.
Yeah, I think H and G are different.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're different, and I think so often we talk about active transportation as commuting measures, but I think Provo has a very large population of children, right? And I think it's worth it to say let's make sure that they feel safe as bikers and pedestrians too. I think that can be its own item. And I don't want to, and I think that's one of the ones that Jeff brought in from the city council members he spoke to, and I don't want to dilute that. Transportation-related elements from the updated general plan.
There were
Joy?
three major ones.
Oh, yes, Jim.
If I may make just an observation on I, it's my understanding that the general plan will have as an appendage to it the sustainability plan. And so I would just suggest that the transportation-related elements from the updated general plan also include the sustainability plan. You know, that is what we ought to have, the transportation-related elements of the sustainability plan in front of us as well.
So just add and sustainability.
Yeah.
We're calling it the Conservation and Resiliency Plan.
Okay, Conservation and Resiliency Plan.
A little, but yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. And then whatever we're going to do with the Provo Bike Master Plan, which we will talk
Put
about.
the other name there too, that we were talking about.
Or active transportation plan, question mark. Okay, is there anything not on this list that people feel should be on the list? We've got 10 things so far.
Oh. Sorry, I'm looking more at things to take off the list. What are the transportation issues with item F?
Gateways?
I know they happen to ask. What's the transportation question?
Relevant gateways are pretty much.
Do you want to speak
Well,
to
this-
that
this-
at all?
More of an economic development.
Oh, yeah, sure, city council's conversations about gateways, and
Yeah,
then,
Gavin and I can both speak to that.
okay.
You're right. It seems like most of the prompts for this probably are more aesthetic. And what we're going to be working on a gateway, I mean mostly Gavin, that is going to mostly address design standards. So I think we do have some connectivity problems between Provo and other cities. We get around parts of Provo pretty well. But maybe if you did want to keep this goal, you could shift it to intercity connectivity around gateways. But if you wanted to get rid of it, that would be justifiable to me from that perspective.
So you sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm going to echo what Hannah's saying. A lot of these gateway areas already have, a lot of them are UDOT roads. UDOT already put in a lot of bicycle infrastructure. Not saying that's the only mode of access to get there. There's already sidewalks. I don't know how much of a need to support it, having not dove into it quite yet. But it's definitely something that I think we could bring to that table when we do discuss another time.
Well, in answer to this, we talked about that bike pathway up on Carterville Road. Bike access in between. So that's not on here anymore. I like that we do it. Intercity connectivity or.
Yeah, what about the
That
big
is-
pile of money for the interstate trails network? Last week.
But that is on here because we talked about if you wanted to add that connectivity for Carterville, then you have to amend the bicycle master plan. By doing that, that's part of Emerald J. Bumped into that.
So do we want to maybe go through and say what things have we addressed, or do we know we need to address that fall under these, so we can assess how tangible they are and there? Add the MAG funding or.
I don't know, my thought with these agenda items is seeing how they correlate with the short, long, medium, and long on the general plan, and maybe doing these along with those to kind of keep things going sequentially. My own opinion.
So maybe we need you to read us the three that had TMAC labels on them already and talk about what it is. So.
Can you go back to that?
Yeah.
Do you have the numbers?
So it was 1A, 1B, and 3C. So east-west mobility.
Okay, here's what I found.
Three.
A and B we have on there.
We have on there.
That one B, so the traffic speed is a short, that's one that can be addressed more.
And George Hanley did email me after our conversation specifically talking about holdouts and other complete street type standards and where to apply those and how that would be implemented. So do we feel like 1B is sufficiently represented, or we need to add that?
I don't remember that we changed complete streets in there. Talk about it, but where we.
How would you phrase it?
In D, right down between vehicles, pedestrians and bicycles, so add complete streets to that item.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about it in D as well.
Like complete street design?
Because both of those then would address 1B.
And then what was 3C? Downtown.
In the way we, but that also includes Riverwood, it includes. That's right. It includes.
So would you want to include that as a separate item, encouraging walkability? Like just copy 3C, like in mixed use centers?
I feel like that's also D.
But it would be a more specific project. Go ahead and
It's
add.
also something that the lakes and rivers and trails and hillsides communities are addressing. Those trails that don't connect.
You're just whispering about whether or not to bring that up.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you did.
About the trails?
Trail connectivity along the river and lake shore and in our foothills.
Making sure that all the trails connect with the active transportation network at large.
So it's like, for example, if I want to use them, I have to drive my car to them at this point. So the trails and hillside study and committee is going to address how do we make all these and bike-friendly places interconnect. So that's part of that walkability.
So should we do a specific walkability item, or do you want to include that with something else? Okay. Sounds like there's two facets of the walkability. One is that mixed use centers, and one is trails and foothills. Those are different.
I think I don't know if it's a separate item or if it's once again something that's like a guiding idea that we need to keep in mind every time we talk about something.
Maybe we should discuss the rivers, lakes, hillsides, canyons, and how this committee can support the goals of those plans as we're moving forward with those.
I even have a goal to support creation of these plans. Rivers, hillside, or rivers, lakes, hillside, canyon, station area plans are coming up soon. Just kind of have a list of plans TMAC will be involved in.
And see, all of these things would address walkability. We talk about it in a development stance, like new project walkability, and then connectivity walkability.
Why don't we add an item that is, how Hannah just raised it, like walkability, or specifically looking at how to support
area-specific plans, because these are at large.
Yeah.
Area-specific walkability plans?
Just area-specific
or trail plans?
Area-specific plans.
Because we have so many plans ongoing that we don't have to list them all out. But
Yeah,
that way we can make sure to bring those plans to TMAC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Review area-specific plans for elements of
Transportation
or
Great.
walkability.
You do guys.
We'll add it.
Thank you, Joseph.
It's probably did. That's okay.
Okay.
Joseph has it. Oh.
Yeah, good work, Joseph. Well done. Take a picture of that later. Okay.
For whatever reason, it's pausing for you. full of sleep.
So that would be like item K.
Yes.
Support area specific plans. Okay. So why don't you scroll back up a little bit?
Yeah.
Would appreciate it. I would like, so that gives us 11 items?
Sorry,
Go
Joy.
ahead, Javin.
We should add a K, but that's almost part of letter I, kind of, because all of these plans are appendices to general plan, so.
Also J.
Oh, okay. However you want to do it, it's gonna be great.
I just think it's catch all.
Yeah, so let's get rid of
I
I.
think we get
Get rid of I, and then we'll just have our 10. I can be, where K was implementing I.
Okay, it's working.
Now, K's J.
I know, now we're all very confused.
Jay, but hold on,
We can handle it, I suppose.
So we just got rid of I and it has become K. But it's actually become J and J's become I.
Yeah, this is like who's on first kind of thing.
Okay, so it's good, it's better.
Judy, I heard that.
So I would actually like people to go ahead and give some input. I hope that's not too uncomfortable. To say, like, write down your top, are you okay with top 3 in order? Can we do that? Or do you need 5?
I just got a note that it's 48.
Time waits.
Right. But Hannah, how long do you need?
We could, Joy, we could easily do a simple Google survey for us to rank these if you really want.
And I can do the Google, I can create the
Could you
survey
do
and
that?
send it over. Yeah.
Okay, I need that feedback so that I can sit down
Well,
and
I
I'll send
would
it over.
move that item E is on April's meeting agenda. Because if
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the
we don't have
deadline
to
for May,
wait for all of
we
them.
don't need to wait for the survey to know that that will probably be the next thing we talk about.
Sure, on April. I see that, sounds great.
And then we have time to give feedback and decide at the next meeting what the next thing is.
Okay.
And
Are we going to rank what the most important issue is, or what we should discuss first? That might not be the same thing.
Those might not be the same thing. I think my first question is, what goes on our agenda this year, not when it goes on the agenda?
Okay, so what
So it's
do you
priority.
most want to add to the agenda?
What
That's
does TMAC need to discuss this year?
Okay,
I would also have a fill in the blank aspect that says how. Because there's a lot of nuances to each of these items, and
Right.
what do we feel like we need to do about any of them?
Definitely,
we
definitely.
could have a 3-hour lecture. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything will change. Like, what are we creating? What's the decision point based on our
Right.
complete streets discussion?
For example, maybe we want to have the planning office, the community development services office come in and tell us all the major projects that are in the works and how connectivity's been addressed. And then we can either make recommendations for future development based on that, or we can say we like this, how can we implement it in other areas, or, something like that, where that was just not even a real example, but.
Or do we need to create a design guide or help
Right.
create a design guide that implements?
So I think you want people's written feedback on how.
when it's on the agenda, we can get into all those.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my vision right now, which is very flexible, would be, like, these are all big issues that have been handed to us by the city council. I would like to see us hand back to them, here is a report from TMAC saying, here's a summary of the problem, here's the things that have been considered, here's our recommendation by issue. And so that would be my end product I would have us aim for. Where we're actually giving them useful feedback on things that have been around a really long time that we want to actually make progress on. That would be
So you
my
could
goal.
see us like brainstorming about each of these items in a meeting and coming up with ideas
And vetting them, yeah, and gathering data and information as we can from our excellent staff. That's what I see. Okay, so we will do our vote over email or however.
I'll send a poll.
But I would like you to look at, make your own list before you see what anyone else voted for, okay? Make it independent. Don't be influenced by anyone else on TMAC. Get your own list before you submit it.
Hide the results.
Just,
I will
don't
see
let
it.
us, I want people to truly vote for what they feel is what we need to talk about this year. And then we can have a conversation about timing separately. Quite a few things for putting that up. I think so. Yeah. Okay, Hannah, go for it.
I'll keep
Your 8
this
minutes.
brief. I'll just sort of explain what the plan is and this chapter in a bit of context so you know what the focuses are, and then you have the document along with some additional pages that just kind of help you text. I just abbreviated the rest of the document.
Is this the same plan I feel like a few meetings ago we talked about these?
Last meeting?
I know we talked about conservation
I think
resilience.
it was conservation.
I think it was the
The
Oh, it was
newsletter.
the newsletter. That was it. Yes, it was.
A beautifully designed newsletter.
Yeah. Thanks for narrowing it down. It's like, it was a sustainability topic, but that's my whole thing. Thank you. Conservation resiliency plan initially was just part of the general plan, but we realized from the council, from residents, it was such a big theme, we needed to break it out on its own. That's where this came in. There are different chapters. If you want to see the rest of these, let me know. We're not really circulating drafts yet. It's going through staff review, going to the administration hopefully next week.
A note, only Word is showing for online.
Oh.
Just stop share and new share.
Share screen. Thank you. Is that better? Can you see the Conservation Resiliency Plan 2023?
Yes.
Great, okay. There are 8 elements that we're trying to narrow our efforts in on. These are very overlapping, like air quality is of course going to do, mobility, also carbon emissions. We're trying to parse out as much as we can. Mobility is what we want to focus on, the second to last one. In this document, this is what you have. There's some of the framework for how to use it, how we got some of our benchmarks and targets, information on what we're expecting for implementation and monitoring. We're defining the KPI, key performance indicator, sort of the metric we're using for everything to measure our overall progress as vehicle miles traveled. That's the average person, how many miles they travel in a single day, and hopefully reducing that number as much. We have data from MAG and UDOT. So this is the mobility section. We're getting 16 on average in Provo from the data that we have. Average Provo resident drives 16 miles a day, averaged out per capita. We'd like to see a 10% decrease in vehicle miles traveled, hopefully by 2030. That got cropped off as I was editing. This is the 2030 goal. This is the 2030. But it's discussed in the goal. This is the actual mobility element. Text about it, our goals, a bit more explanation of baseline, KPI, why it matters, what our targets are, and some useful links. If there's anything you think we should add or wording we should shift, feel free to let me know.
Just on the mobility section?
Just on the mobility section.
I didn't realize you needed our feedback on this today.
Oh, you're okay. If you can get it to me by the end of, maybe can you say like Wednesday, midweek next week?
TMAC has homework this month.
Sorry about that.
This is good for us. So everyone's going to vote on our agenda priorities and also respond. Any specific questions you're looking for feedback on? Or
some of these goals would be helpful just to make sure they're realistic and also that there's nothing we're missing. I tried to skip ones. You know what, I'll send you an updated version because the joy of this being a draft is that it's very much a working document, and 2 of these goals were just removed like yesterday. Or 2 removed, 1 was added. But yeah, there you are. Maybe I'll add this to have you be on whatever you would prefer if you want more homework. But if you want to take a look at these goals.
We should invite Hannah more often, huh?
It's going to give us more work to do.
You're gonna have to increase our.
This document,
100%, yeah.
this document is pretty short. It's about 10 pages. Only about 4 or 5 of them are ones you really need to read. The others are table of contents or context if you feel you need, like where we got our benchmarking studies from, or the supplemental baseline data.
Are there page marks on it? So when you send it to us, will you just note what page it starts on?
Oh, I just deleted everything that wasn't what I wanted you to focus on, or that wouldn't be a helpful orientation. That's why this is normally 10 pages. It's normally like 70 pages.
Perfect, so you'll only send us what we need to look at.
This is already what you've got. I will send you a version that has the updated goals that just changed yesterday, because that's what I really want your feedback on, so I want to make sure you have the most current version.
Will you put that in your email, Hannah, to remind us?
Yep.
Short, long, medium, are they same as, no problem.
Yes, and we've tried not to repeat goals that are in the general plan. That is an excellent.
I'd like to know too, if there's are in this.
So what I think they've done
Is that including
what I think they've done is they've taken the volume on every road, multiplied by the length of the road, divided by the number of people on the road. Which means that through traffic, through Provo, increases Provo's VMT. So what I'm worried about is by using that as the goal, we are tied to external forces.
They're going to use our roads regardless.
Exactly.
That is something that we're worried about in air quality, things like that as well, because we are sharing an environment with other people. The first goal here is to track overall mode split and refine KPIs, because I have some concerns about that as well. This is another one that was done by some consultants, Spirit LLC, or Spirit Environmental LLC in Fine Workshops in Colorado. We have had a hard time getting provided sources for all of their data, which is going to be crucial for updating the plan, right? And seeing if we're actually hitting these targets we're setting for 2030 and 2050. So refining KPI is going. Google is expanding a lot of their tech around cities, and hopefully we'll be able to get some better KPI data from them. But we have had a hard time with that so far. It's still in early stages. This might be one of them. Oh, KPI is key performance indicator. Right? That's the thing I threw out early on.
Is it defined up there somewhere else? Make sure you define it for the lay people.
I believe
that
well, that's what everything was that I skipped past.
Yeah, okay, then, yeah, I will read it.
So here, key performance indicators are quantified indicators. This is what I skipped past. Feel free to read this if you want some more
As
context.
long as it's in there, I don't even care. I just need to make sure that it's in there.
I just want to make sure you get out on time. But yes, everything is in here. I'll send a version with the updated goals. Sorry I didn't send that with the other meeting notes. It just changed literally yesterday evening. So.
Okay, we probably wouldn't have come to the meeting having read it, because we know what we were looking for.
Oh, that's totally, yeah. But since this is a draft, we'd like your feedback. Then it will go to the administration as soon as I get your feedback. And it'll go to Planning Commission and be finally formatted, and final version sent to council. Any questions about that?
Any final comments, questions from anyone?
Well, I've always got comments, but I don't think they pertain to.
Thank you everyone for being here today. Case study, and there's always more to talk about than we have time to talk about. So that's why we're trying to plan effectively. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input today, and we will see you next month.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
I found out that Lisa, they